Whether you're painting furniture for yourself or you're flipping it, I'm going to show you how to make it your own.
I am Lisa Boone with Lisa Boone Designs. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. We're painting a cherry dresser. I slapped on some Tarnished Pearl. So Tarnished Pearl is one of our 5 whites. It's a gray white. I love to use it. That's what it looks like in the jar. So DIY paint, as you can tell, it's drying. It dries lighter than when it's wet. So you can see, and this is a scratch coat. I can see the wood coming through. So we're going to be taking the Sepia Blossoms Roycycled paper. I decided that I'm going to do Tarnished Pearl because it's an off-white color on the paper, and I want the colors to pop. If I wanted them to be more muted, then I would do a darker color behind the paper, but I usually like my colors to pop a little bit, especially this, because it's not very, very bright and colorful, so I don't want to mute them down. So I'm gonna cut the paper apart, and in all honesty, I always recommend whenever you're gonna do a dresser or a big piece to have 2 pieces of paper. I only had 1, so I'm gonna try to make this work. So I'm gonna rip it apart, and I may have to go to the store and pick up another sheet. So these are 20 by 30. And so you see these olive tones, that's what, I'm not gonna match it, and see this yellowy color is really pretty. And there, of course, there's text on there, which I like. I'm gonna decoupage with liquid patina. I'm going to make a custom color. All right, so I've got a little bit of old 57. Like, I'm talking un poquitico, a little bit. All right, so old 57, I'm gonna take weathered wood. The other day, and I was like, weathered wood dries so different. Okay, so I'm gonna do these 2 colors together. All right, so I definitely need more green. So it's still brownie. Do y'all think I'm crazy? Tell me, do you guys experiment and try to blend colors? Or if you don't, are you scared to blend colors? Like, let me know. All right, so I'm gonna try to do this so you can see it turning. I love blending colors. Okay, so we're getting there, and this is how I do it. I do it slow. I add in increments, small increments. So it definitely has too much blue in it. I'm gonna add some water in here. So whenever you get to the bottom, you know, it gets thicker. And you know what? It's all gonna blend. I'm gonna blend it. All right, put a little bit of mint. So see, I added weathered wood, mermaid tail, a drop of old 57, a drop of mint chip. But I still need this to be I think I need it to be a little bit greener. I'm gonna drop a little bit here. Okay, so now we're getting more can you see that? There we go. Now what I did, this is cherry. So right before, like literally an hour, at 10 o'clock, I hit this thing with 2 coats of shellac. I like using the shellac because it dries very, very quickly. This is a 20 by 30 sheet. It's 18-pound tissue paper. It's light enough, you see how it's just flowing, but it's thick enough that you can still play with it. I'm gonna cut this leaf apart. So wherever I draw the line is where I'm gonna cut it. So I'm gonna go right here, and I'm just going to take that off. What I cut out. All right, so you see that jagged edge? That's what I always like to have whenever I decoupage on a piece. And then I'm gonna use this corner right here on the very bottom corner. Oh, baby, I'm sorry. And see, this is the part that I cut out. So we will use this in other places. I'm going to use saran wrap. I'm just going to make sure that it's the end. I want the end right at the bottom, and I want the end here. So I'm going to hold this up. And it's hard to do with one hand sometimes, but just do one small section at a time. So I'm going to apply my patina. And I wanted to get this on here before I painted the whole thing, because this is kind of driving how I'm gonna paint it. I'm just doing this a little bit differently than how I normally do it. But so now I let it go. And then I'm gonna bring it down. Bring it down from the center. The wheels are making me move. Bring it down. And then I'm going to go across from the outside. All right? And we're just getting it adhered, getting the wrinkles out, and the saran wrap really does a great job of that.
There's so many different ways to decoupage. There's no right or wrong way. It's whatever works for you. Wrinkles are not a bad thing. Sometimes you have to embrace them. You can do the wet method, you can do the dry method by ironing it on. Whichever way that you like, do what works for you. If you have any questions about decoupaging, don't hesitate to comment below and ask me your questions. You can also go on my Facebook page and send me a direct message and I will answer them. I love to help people because I get a lot of questions about decoupaging. People love to do it, but they're perplexed. They don't know how to do it. They get upset if it doesn't work out perfectly. But there is no such thing as perfect, only God. Only God is perfect. And so whenever you decoupage, you just have to know that you might get wrinkles and you have to be okay with it. Now there are a lot of ways that you can try to avoid it, and it also, I want to say, the products that you use really do make a difference. I love liquid patina as a decoupage medium. I love DIY Paint's Big Top as a decoupage medium. They both work amazing and they really help me to make great projects. So consider using one of those products. If you have any questions about them, don't hesitate to ask. You can purchase them on my website, lisaboondesigns.com. The link is in the description of this video. Now just remember, after you decoupage, once your product is dry and you go ahead and top coat it, it is going to wrinkle because you've just wet the paper. So just let it dry and it usually stretches out and works all the wrinkles out on its own. I wanted to get a feel for what my custom colors were going to look like in comparison to the paper, if it was going to work out well for me. So I went ahead and I applied the darkest color first. And then I went ahead and took a little bit of the second color that I created and also the color Aviary by DIY Paint. And as you can see, as I'm applying this on there, it turns out looking really, really good. So I created a third color. I mixed Aviary with weathered wood, and that's what I got in that little container. And so you can see the comparison, and all of those colors just worked together so well. You can use liquid patina or Big Top to seal in your paper. Either one works great. If this is your top coat, I'd suggest using Big Top if that's what you're going to use, and then you can go ahead and put a coat of wax over it. It's whatever you want your finish to look like, but you definitely want to seal your paper in and make sure that you get all of the edges. And I'm just going to cut right here. That was still a little bit wet. So you don't want to do it when it's wet. My nails are really strong, and sometimes you really use my nails. But if it's a transfer, I use my nails. And this is exactly how I do a transfer so that I don't break the pattern up. Of course, I can sand it. You know, you could sand the edges off, but I'm just gonna go ahead and wrap this a little bit. I went ahead and got another piece of paper and I cut up all the pieces and just started laying it out and figuring out exactly where I wanted them, and just went ahead and decoupaged them just like I did the other piece. If you haven't tried color mixing or color mixology yet, with DIY paint, it's so easy and it's so much fun, and you can make anything your own. Whether it's the furniture or just the paint, you can make it your own and you can do it. It's so much fun. All of these colors worked really great together, and of course there's my daughter always having to get in that video and making faces because she is a diva. But she helps me out so much and I'm grateful. She's my sidekick and I love her so much. But here are all of the colors just blending together, and because I used the same colors to make these colors, they all work great together. They have a gray tone to them because of the weathered wood, and it works great with the paper. And there's my dog, Ginger. She's my female Australian Shepherd Mini, and she always also wants to be in all of the videos. So here we are, just touching up and blending and making it such a beautiful piece. So here she is all dried up, and I was looking at it and I was like, you know, it looks beautiful, but I definitely need to add some decoupage papers to the side. But you could have left it alone as it is and it would have been amazing. I had an IOD scrap from Winter Song and I added it on the top, as well as a butterfly from Entomology, and I think it really just makes it extra special, just a little surprise on the top. And then I also took a couple of scraps and I put them on the front of the drawer just to tie in that same element, and I love the way that it turned out. You always want to make sure you burnish down your transfers before you seal them so that you could get really good adhesion and durability, and so you don't want to have any air pockets or bubbles before you seal it. And especially if you're connecting it in the drawer, you want to make sure you get those edges down, just like the decoupage paper I talked about earlier. I've really been into using a sponge to apply my big top. I went ahead and I used big top over the entire dresser, and then I ended up waxing it later, but I just wanted to get a good seal on it, and I want this to be really durable to go over the transfers and the decoupage paper, and it turned out really great. It makes for easy work when you use this sponge, and DIY paint always dries a little bit lighter than the actual color, and then when you wet it, it's a lot brighter, and somewhere in between is your actual color. So it helps to know what you've gone over and what you haven't when you're sealing it. You definitely don't want to over brush your big top or push down really hard, because since you're wetting it, you could actually distress your piece. Here's a tip. Whenever you're doing your top, whether you're using a brush or a sponge, this is what I do. I stand in the middle and I rock back and forth from left to right to be able to get a smooth stroke all across that top of that dresser. And it really helps me, so maybe it'll help you. Let me know in the comments how you like to put on your top coat. Once big top is dry, then I go ahead and I give it a really good coat of DIY clear wax over the entire thing. If you enjoyed this video and it was helpful to you, please like and comment. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. Here's the finished piece. I love the way that it turned out. I'm calling her Sepia Blossoms after the paper, and she is available for sale in Madisonville, Kentucky. If you're local or just a couple hours drive, you might want to come to Now and Then and check it out. If you have any questions about her, you can go onto my website, lisaboondesigns.com.